A monocle walks into a bar. After a few drinks, he starts to feel pretty good and a little uncoordinated. He reaches for a cigarette, but the bartender stops him. "Sorry, buddy, but due to city ordinances, we don't allow smoking in here. You'll have to step outside to smoke." So the monocle hops off the bar stool and grabs his cigarettes to head outside. Meanwhile, a second monocle emerges from the bathroom. They bump into each other as they cross paths and fall to the floor, hopelessly entangled. They try to get free, but the more they struggle, the more tangled they become. The bartender looks down on this travesty and shakes his head. "Hey, you two," he shouts. "Stop making spectacles of yourselves." An attractive young woman on a flight from Ireland asked the priest beside her, "Father, may I ask a favor?" "Of course, child. What may I do for you?" "Well, I bought my mother an expensive hairdryer for her birthday. It is unopened, but well over the customs limits, and I'm afraid they'll confiscate it. Is there any way you could carry it through customs for me? Hide it under your robes, perhaps." "I would love to help you, dear, but I must warn you, I will not lie." "With your honest face, Father, no one will question you," she replied. When they got to customs, she let the priest go first. The official asked, "Father, do you have anything to declare?" "From the top of my head down to my waist, I have nothing to declare," said the father. The official thought this answer strange, so asked, "Then what do you have to declare from your waist to the floor?" Father replied, "I have a marvelous instrument designed to be used on a woman, which is, to date, unused."
Lost dog strays into a jungle. A lion sees this from a distance and says, "With caution, this guy looks edible. I've never seen his kind before." So the lion starts rushing towards the dog with menace. The dog notices and starts to panic, but as he's about to run, he sees some bones next to him and gets an idea and says loudly, "That was some good lion meat." The lion abruptly stops and says, "Whoa, this guy seems tougher than he looks. I better leave while I can." Over by the treetop, a monkey witnessed everything. Evidently, the monkey realizes that he can benefit from this situation by telling the lion and getting something in return. So the monkey proceeds to tell the lion what really happened, and the lion says, "Angrily, get on my back, we'll get him together." So they start rushing back to the dog. The dog sees them and realizes what happened and starts to panic even more. He then gets another idea and shouts, "Where the hell is that monkey? I told him to bring me another lion an hour ago."
A Sunday school teacher of preschoolers told her students that she wanted each of them to have learned one fact about Jesus by the next Sunday. The following week, she asked each child in turn what he or she had learned. Susie said, "He was born in a manger." Bobby said, "He threw the money changers out of the temple." Little Johnny said, "He has a red pickup truck, but he doesn't know how to drive it." Curious, the teacher asked, "And where did you learn that, Johnny?" "From my daddy," said Johnny. "Yesterday we were driving down the highway and this red pickup truck pulled out in front of us and Daddy yelled at him. Jesus Christ, why don't you learn how to drive?"
A man shows up at work Monday morning with 2 black eyes. His boss, figuring the guy got in a fight at a bar, he asks him, "Where'd you get the shiners?" The man replies, "Got them both in church yesterday." "In church? How in the world did you manage to get 2 black eyes in church?" "Well, the preacher called a hymn, and as we all stood up to sing, I noticed the lady standing in front of me, her dress was sort of stuck in the crack of her arse. So I reached out and pulled it out for her. She turned around and slugged me in the right eye." Is boss still confused on how a slug to the right eye affected the left side? Asks, "Well, how'd you get the other one?" "Well," replies the man, "I figured if she got that mad from me pulling the dress out of the crack of her arse, I'd better put it back." A college student wrote a letter home. "Dear folks, I feel miserable cause I have to keep writing for money. I feel ashamed and unhappy. I have to ask for another 100. I'm so ashamed. I beg on bended knee that you forgive me. Your son, Eric." I felt so terrible I ran after the postman who was emptying the box at the corner. I wanted to take this letter and burn it. I prayed to God that I could get it back, but I was too late. A few days later, he received a letter from his father. "Dear son, good news. Your prayers were answered. I'm glad to tell you that your letter never came." A young man from the city goes to visit his farmer uncle. For the first few days, the uncle shows him the usual things: chickens, cows, crops, etc. After 3 days, however, it's obvious that the nephew is getting bored and the uncle is running out of things to keep the boy occupied. Finally, the uncle has an idea. "Why don't you grab a gun, take the dogs, and go shooting? This seems to perk the nephew up." and off he goes, dogs in tow. A few hours later, the nephew returns. How did you enjoy that? Asks the uncle. It was great, exclaims the nephew. I just ran out of dogs to shoot. 3 rookies are at batting practice. The first guy pops one straight overhead that falls back into the stands. He turns to the hitting coach and says, "What did I do wrong?" The coach says, "Loft." The next guy steps up and hits a foul that dribbles near the fence by first base. He asks the coach, "What did I do wrong?" The coach says, "Loft." The third guy swings and misses. He asks the coach, "What did I do wrong?" The coach says, "Loft." As they're walking to the showers, the first guy finally speaks up. He says to the coach, "The 3 of us made completely different swings, and when we asked you what we did wrong, you answered the same exact answer each time. What's loft?" The coach replies, "Lack of fucking talent." Every winter, Fred and Billy go deer hunting without success. Finally, they devise a foolproof plan. They will purchase a female deer costume and learn the mating call of a female deer next winter. They will hide in the costume, lure a buck, then ditch the costume and shoot the deer. Winter arrives, and the 2 men set themselves up on the edge of a clearing, don their costume, and begin to give the deer love call. Before long, their call is answered as a huge buck comes crashing out of the forest and into the clearing. When the buck gets close enough, Fred says, "Let's get out and shoot him." After a long moment, Billy says, "This damn zipper is stuck. We're trapped in here. What are we going to do?" Fred replies, "Well, I guess we're getting fucked by a buck." A young man was waiting in line at the bank when he developed a loud case of hiccups. The hiccups got worse and worse. By the time he got to the teller's window, he could hardly talk as he handed the teller his check to cash. The teller was tapping numbers into the computer. In a moment, looking up and frowning, she spoke. "I can't cash your check," she said. The man was shocked. "Why not?" he asked. "The computer indicates you do not have sufficient funds to cover this amount," she said. "In fact, our records show that your account is overdrawn by more than $5,000. It can't be," cried the man. "You've got to be kidding." "You're right. I am," she smiled. She started counting out his cash, saying, "But you will notice that your hiccups are gone, though." A man's walking home late at night when he sees a woman in the shadows. $20, she says. He's never been with a prostitute before, but he decides what the hell. They are going at it for a minute when all of a sudden a light flashes on them. It's a policeman. "What's going on here, people?" asks the officer. "I'm making love to my wife." The man answers indignantly. "Oh, I'm sorry," says the cop. "I didn't know." "Well," said the man, "to tell the truth, neither did I until you flashed that light on her face."